Oh, phew. All right. The Supreme Court thankfully did not technically strike down Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act. They just made it impossible to use. But it still technically exists. I mean, it is a word in a document that no one can enforce. Go us. And it was 6-3, along partisan lines at the Supreme Court. Alito writing for the majority in Callais versus Louisiana. Elena Kagan wrote in dissent, calling this ruling what it is. It's a decision that renders Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act all but a dead letter. And if you're not familiar, this Section 2 of the VRA, the provision that has protected minority voters from racially discriminatory maps since 1965, used to say that if a map is drawn in a way that dilutes minority voting power, it's illegal. All you have to do is prove the effect, and then you win the case. But now you have to do the impossible. You have to prove intentional discrimination. You have to get inside the heads of the politicians that are very, very good at writing emails that say, we drew this map for partisan reasons, which is damning in its own way, but still legal, while drawing it for racial reasons. Congratulations. You now have to find a smoking gun that every map maker in America knows not to put in writing, especially in this era of signal chats and confidential documents ending up in a Mar-a-Lago bathroom. So what's the impact of this? All right, NPR did an analysis of it, and they show that this ruling could cost black members of Congress 15 House seats. 15. Not in 20 years. This November. It's not a future problem. That is a now problem. That is, we just handed Republicans the House on a silver platter, wrapped in a Constitution that they're also eating and crapping out problem. And let's be honest about the timeline here. This week, Florida just passed their bill on redistricting. Texas, Missouri, North Carolina, Ohio, already mid-decade redistricting, which is really, really odd. These maps are getting drawn this year for this November, and this ruling comes out now. You want to talk about timing? That is intentional timing. And the justices, by the way, if you're not thinking that they're cozy with the Trump administration, some of them, I'll let you guess which ones, had dinner with Trump this week at the White House, the state dinner for King Charles. Can you guess which ones? It was all of the conservative ones, that's right. And look, I'm not going to tell you what to think about the conservative justices going right before issuing this ruling to a state dinner with Donald Trump. I think you can draw your own conclusions there. And look, Justice Kagan wrote, in the states where the law continues to matter, the states still marked by residential segregation and racially polarized voting, minority voters can now be cracked out of the electoral process. Cracked out of the electoral process. That is what a justice of the Supreme Court said about disenfranchised voters. The Voting Rights Act has been under attack, and it's been chipping away at it since 2013. There were rulings that took out pre-clearance, and courts, they can no longer touch partisan gerrymandering. You can say that you are drawing the maps to give yourself more seats. That's legal. And now this. Look, they don't need to repeal laws. They don't need to rewrite them. They just need to make it unenforceable, one ruling at a time, and they can write that it was a proper interpretation. I've been telling you for months that they are going to do everything they can to keep power. Everything. The judiciary, Congress, Donald Trump, they're weaponizing November. That's their plan. And it is happening in broad daylight, 6 justices at a time. And these are stories we cannot afford to ignore. That's why any independent media that keeps telling the truth depends on you to interact with them. The algorithm doesn't want you to hear stories like this. And the only way you can tell the algorithm to get this story to more people is to interact with it. Whether it's subscribing, whether it's sharing, whether it's leaving me a comment, all of that matters. So we are counting on you to help us leading into November.